So you found a skeleton. How would you tell if it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I don't know research on that.
Hey everybody, welcome to Jackson with Jackson number, I forgot to put it in there, apparently. That's a thing that just happened. Does anyone know what number this is? Jackson, do you know what number this is?
No, what number is it?
I don't know, that's why I'm asking. Because I forgot to put it in there.
We are equally adrift in a sea of numbers.
Unfortunate. I believe it is 32? Was it 32? Is that right?
Let's call it 32, for the sake of argument.
Yeah, I think 32 is correct. Alright, well hey, welcome to Jackson with Jackson 32, you know. The number that it is. Naturally low res, because of course Charles Jackson is apparently just naturally low resolution. He has apparently just never been photographed on anything other than a potato. Except for that one, like, young Earth creationist time travel sci-fi thing that I don't think is actually coming out because it's been years. But, yeah. Oh, Eddie McCoy also agrees.
Maybe that's for the best.
Yeah, I mean, it looked visually good, but, like, I'm sure it was just going to be extremely dumb. But, yeah. So, okay, Dapper's a professional. We'll take a drink for that. Okay. I am drinking some watermelon, hard watermelon Mountain Dew, or hard Mountain Dew watermelon. I don't know. We've got a couple things to read. DM Google Debunker Wing says, "Let's get debunking with a Godzilla," and then 4 pride flags. Happy Pride, everyone. And then Asta 6 times 10 to the 23rd proves Odin Ryu for $4.99 says AIG is a bag of eggplants with which Jackson took one of to the film with. Yes. Thank you very much. I will take a drink for that, too. And here comes another drink. All right, Jackson, how you doing?
Okay. Driving,
yeah. All right. Well, as y'all might know, this has been rescheduled a couple times, so we're finally here. Originally, it was scheduled for Tuesday, then it was Wednesday, now it's today, and hey, here we are. So, I'm not going to go through the drinking rules. I do that every week on Tuesday. If you want to know what all the drinking rules, be here on Tuesday. So yeah, we have a new video from Dr. Charles Jackson to go over. Last one, if you all remember, the audio went to absolute crap. It was painful to listen to, and I said that if it didn't change by the end of that stream, we were going to move on to another video. And then today, as I opened up that same video file, and it sounded awful, I remembered, oh no. I was supposed to fetch a new Charles Jackson video. So shortly before the stream, I scrambled to download Birds and Dinosaurs with Dr. Charles Jackson.
Yay!
So, Jackson, unless you have anything you want to tell people about, I'm just going to hit play and we're going to get right into it.
Let's get right into it. Let's get all in there.
Okay. It's playing.
I'm a teacher. It's a fill-in-a-blank question. Okay. Monkeys changing into humans. Yeah.
I mean, or just other monkeys, which humans are also. But okay, sure, whatever.
The people, and then you might have seen the little pictures of the little thing that looks like Bambi, and it turns into a zebra-looking thing, and it turns into a horse, and then you see
Jackson, would you describe, like, Eohippus as looking like Bambi? Because I sure wouldn't.
I don't think I would, but I feel like that probably encapsulates Charles Jackson's understanding of paleontology. The thing that looks like Bambi and turned
into a horse.
A zebra.
Yeah, a zebra and like a horse. Yeah, yeah.
Kind of eyeballed it. He did the oh shoot, what was it called? Oh, what was the creationist thing where they're just eyeballing it? They called it something fancy.
Oh, cognitum.
Cognitum, there we go. Yeah, that's what he was doing.
Yeah.
Then the Bambi kind.
Yeah. Pillpunk, half dog, half canine, who's been a member for 12 months and is at the Tetrapod level. Thank you very much. Does everyone get ready for Gay Wrath Month? Yes. And then after that, it's going to be Gay Gluttony Month. It's going to be great.
I am here for that.
The Wrath or the Gluttony?
Porque no los dos.
See? What about Gay Sloth Month? Which,
I mean,
despite
that's
the
kind of
name,
every month for me.
well, okay. I was going to say, despite the name, it's actually not about South American mammals that happen to be gay. It's about being gay and never getting out of bed. All right, here we go.
Life.
Thing of the little thing, it looks like a spider monkey, and then it's like a chimp, and then it's like a gorilla, and then it's like a caveman with a spear, and then it's a human.
The March of Progress? Yeah, I hate it. And also, nothing on there is ever like a spider monkey. But Roshina, illegal taxon killer for $1.99 says, I am a proud Catarrhine monkey. Yes, as is most of my audience, I believe. And I also, I'm pretty sure that Jackson, you're a Catarrhine monkey, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta hear Platyrrhines. Nah, it's okay. Platyrrhines can watch too. They're cool.
You know, well, they've got that thing for birds, changing from what looks like a little fuzzy plucked chicken lizard.
Is it fuzzy or is it plucked, Chuck?
Fuzzy, plucked, fuzzy. No.
Yeah, it's one or the other, my man. It's one or the other.
It gradually changes into things that has feathers and perching feet, a bird skull and wings, and a wishbone and a sternum for the...
Yeah,
Dapper, I wonder if there are like any like theropod dinosaurs that have like a furcula.
As it turns out, it's basically all of them, yeah. Turns out.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, as it turns out, we found... okay, I can't say that every single known theropod has a furcula, because that's not true.
Fair.
However, what I can say is that the distribution of furcula among known taxa is so wide that it would be like questioning whether or not your fossil bear has fur or not, right? It's like, okay, look, It's got fur, right? It's the same kind of deal. Did we find actual physical evidence of fur for every fossil bear? No. But when you look at how widely distributed the trait is among just mammals, you're like, yeah, they probably all had hair. The same thing with furcula and theropods. We have found furcula from basically every corner of the theropod family tree. So the idea that there was a theropod that just didn't have a furcula or a wishbone is just ludicrous at this point. I was
going to say the funny thing, I actually learned this from one of Tony Reed's How Creationism Taught Me Real Science videos, was there was a guy in the early 1900s, late 1800s, named Gerard Heilman, who like wrote this book that was arguing that that birds did not arise from theropods, and he actually made a prediction that like if birds arose from theropods, we should expect to find a furcula in theropods.
Hey,
but wait,
and we did.
Yeah, then we did. Yeah,
hooray! For $2, Gupdu3 says, I caught a sloth Pokemon at Pride Festival once. Nice. Very cool. Alright, we'll hit play.
Anchoring a keel for the anchoring of the flight muscles and all that until it turns into modern birds. They've got that little thing. We're going to focus on that.
That's not me, by the way. That's the video going black.
How many remember those PC and Mac commercials where there's a guy playing the PC and a guy playing the Mac? Okay,
I want to point out, this video was uploaded last year. Look at the audience.
Like, the children.
Do you think any of these people has ever seen the Mac versus PC commercials from like the early 2000s when they weren't even born? Not. No. This guy has absolutely... This guy is completely out of touch.
It's like, kids remember the 90s, right? We were born in the 2010s. Oh.
Yeah, jeez.
You remember the PC Mac commercials.
At this point, he's like, when was the last time y'all went to see a movie with Humphrey Bogart in it? Like, never did.
You guys remember the Blockbuster, right?
You had to pay late fees.
Who's been to Radio Shack recently?
Roosing an illegal taxon color for $1.99 says, I prefer my fossil bears naked. That's fair. As to exceptions prove its binary review for $5 said, wait, we have a gay sloth month? I thought that was every month. When's gay lust month? February? They just go in order, right? It's like Pride, then it's going to be like Envy, then Sloth, Gluttony, Lust. You just keep going. I actually don't know. I'm just making up the order as I go. I guess you could just follow the order of like the when they find the bodies in the movie 7. Which, by the way, my theology teacher at my Roman Catholic high school showed us towards the end of school one year. because she said that this would make us sure that we always remember the 7 deadly sins. She was right, but I also feel like she just didn't want to keep teaching. Like, she was just done for that year.
I mean, she accomplished both tasks.
It's true, yeah. I can honestly say, after seeing that, yeah, no, they're all pretty burned into my brain.
The Mac guy is cool, and the PC guy is a dorky. Well,
none of these kids.
Bottom right. Look at him on like the bottom right. He's like looking for like, does anyone know what he's talking about?
Yeah, none of these kids have any clue. Jeez.
Somebody picked up on that and decided to do creation and evolution.
Oh,
I am creation.
Yeah, it's bad.
And I am the theory of evolution. Watch out for the tail. The tail. I was just trying to break it.
Drink for a joke that didn't land.
Yeah, and I figured you'd... No, okay, that's funny too. Thank you. Look, I realize it's difficult for some people to fully grasp me. Well, that's just because you don't make any sense. Well, it does take a certain... what's the word I'm looking for? Something...
Imagination?
No. It takes a lot of...
Hey, most things that are in front of you take imagination. That's not a bad thing. My Unfinished Journey for $5 says, wasn't this stream also scheduled for Saturday afternoon? Dapper's Pro ×2. I don't think it was scheduled for Saturday. Maybe it was. I don't know. I know I did at one point screw up the scheduling for my streams. Yeah. Basically, when I have like 3 different streams which are being rescheduled and shuffled around, it gets hard for me to keep track. Sorry.
No. What's the word? A lot. Fate. No, I'll never use that word. Right. Evidence. That's the word. It takes a lot of evidence to fully grasp who I am.
Evidence, yeah. Like the fossil record.
Exactly.
So you guys have finally found all the transitional forms?
I was going to point out.
Yes, every single one of them.
Yeah. The idea of finding all the transitional forms is absolutely ludicrous because that would require you to basically have a fossil of every single animal that is currently alive's ancestors. And even the ancestors are pretty much everything that went extinct. So basically, unless every single individual is available in the fossil record, the answer is no, we haven't found all the transitional forms. Rosina Illegal Taxing Keller for $9.99 says, this is too much cringe. Yeah, no, the original commercials were themselves already pretty cringy. And
everything in the early 2000s was cringe, and the late 90s.
Except for Jurassic Park.
Okay, that was 93. That was early 90s.
Oh, I suppose that's true. Yeah, that's not the late 90s. All right, fair enough. Wait, when did Walking with Dinosaurs come out? Was that the early 2000s?
Dude, you're probably right on that one.
First of all, there's a drink for Godzilla, and second, yeah, that wasn't cringe. I mean, there are parts that haven't aged well, but that's going to be true for any documentary that's 20 years old.
I mean, it was very good for its time.
Yeah.
Still good today. It still, it holds up reasonably well per day, but also I believe they're like doing another one in that series, aren't they?
They are. They're reviving it. Walking with Dinosaurs is coming back. Joshua Geese just gifted 5 Dapper Dinosaur memberships. They went to Guptu3, Nemas, Critical Snake, Michael N, Mark Rose, and Marvison. So let's take 5 drinks. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Little Punk, half dog, half canine for $5 says, I think the term he was looking for is cognitive bias. Yeah, possibly that. Yeah. Let me just update the tracker. Almost up a little bit. All right, here we go.
No.
Oh, you found a few, right?
Yeah, hundreds. Possibly thousands. Depends on how exactly you want to be with the term transitional form and exactly what definition you want to give it. But, I'd be perfectly happy to say thousands of transitional. Yep. Jackson, would you have a different estimate?
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
After 150 years of searching?
No. Not a 1.
Oh.
Yeah, just take a drink.
Oh.
Look, I get that creationists reject all the transitional forms that exist for various arbitrary and fallacious reasons. But if you're trying to portray a guy as being the embodiment of evolution, then you know that's a straw man, right? Because if you ask an evolutionary biologist, or a paleontologist, or basically just anyone who's in a biological field, can you name a transitional form from the fossil record? I can guarantee you pretty much all of them are going to be able to name one. You might not think that it's true. You might not think that thing counts. But the person you're asking does. And if you're trying to portray this nerd guy on the left as the personification of all of those people, then yeah, he's not going to answer that way. Dr. Dino for $2 says, may I propose Dinos Watching Walking with Dinosaur series? I mean, that sure would be cool, although I do worry about the copyright nature of Walking with Dinosaurs. So it's because it actually has, like real production houses and whatnot, even fair use reaction content can be tricky. It's one of the reasons I haven't done the Joe Rogan, Terrence Howard thing, is because putting significant amounts of the Joe Rogan podcast in your video is basically the kiss of death. Like, you're just not going to get it to keep it up. It's going to get taken down, like, almost immediately. Yeah, because Joe Rogan is pretty protective of his copyrighted material, which, I mean, I guess I don't blame him. But, yeah, it's tricky. In fact, I know someone else who was doing some live reaction, which was it was very heavily their own reaction. And it was, but they were doing like the Netflix Alien Planet or whatever. And yeah, that stream got taken down real fast. Let's see. Roshina Illegal Taxon Keller for $1.99 says, why aren't sauropods more sexier? I mean, I feel like they're already really sexy. I don't know. You know what? Maybe you just don't like big dinosaurs that much. And that's okay. You can have your own preferences. Maybe you're more into the lithe, sleek, smaller dinosaurs, which is okay too.
No love for big-bodied dinosaurs.
Well, lots of people love big-bodied dinosaurs. It just doesn't have to be everyone's thing. Everyone is allowed to have their own preferences, right? And you're not wrong.
Like those medium dinosaurs.
Yeah, look, you're not wrong just for having your preferences, right? Now, if you're going to treat people poorly because they don't meet your particular preferences, well, now you're wrong. But yeah, there's nothing written down that you have to find everyone and every dinosaur equally as sexy as all the other ones.
So there really is no evidence.
Right.
I mean, except for, the transitional forms that have been found, the twin-nested hierarchy, shared RVs, orphan genes that are taxonomically restricted in ways that are predictable via taxonomy. The fact that we've actually conducted experiments with known phylogenies, then use phylogenetic techniques in a double-blind setting to reconstruct the actual phylogeny that was already known. There's confirmations of various actual mechanisms within evolutionary biology, like in the Luria-Delbruck experiment or the Lenski long-term E. coli experiments. Except for all that stuff, the hundreds of thousands, possibly millions of papers, all finding evidence for evolution. Yeah. Yep. Here's the thing. You couldn't, in your lifetime, read all of the evidence for evolution. You couldn't even read half of it. You could, in the course of maybe a decade, read basically everything there is to read about young Earth creationism. And the reason for that is because young Earth creationism neither tackles the data primarily, nor is it productive. If it were, then you would be in that situation where you couldn't possibly read all of it. Mr. Cliff, for £2, says, sexier pods with a heart eyes emoji. Now, that would be a good name for them. I do appreciate that. So, yeah. All right, here we go.
So it does take faith.
What do we say about that word? Sorry.
That joke landed? Name.
Yeah. Is it really wrong how funny I think that is?
Yes, you're clearly wrong, given how lame the laughter was. Look, humor is subjective, right? But that was objectively not funny. Dutch Tunicate Demonic Selection for $2 says, I'm into the modern, mostly small, feathery ones. Also valid. There's a lot of really great feathery, small dinosaurs that are around and kicking right now.
I don't know. Okay. Now, talking about missing links, as I told you we were going to do that and show you some things National Geographic did back in 1988.
Always National Geographic.
Yes. Yeah, the peer-reviewed paragon of science, National Geographic. It's getting to the point where I'm just like, can we just cancel all of National Geographic? Can we just get them to go out of business? Because it's really annoying to have to hear about National Geographic and what they did in opposition to literally every paleontologist who they asked. And then to say, see, science doesn't know what they're talking about, when literally every scientist said, no, don't publish this. And then they were like, yeah, but it's going to sell magazines, so they did it anyway.
Yeah.
That's not
Sure
an L
did.
for science. That's an L for National Geographic.
In 98, they pulled together all the fossils they could find to make one of those little charts, like the little monkey turned into people and little Bambi turned. They had the little fuzzy plucked chicken lizard that turned into birds like we have today.
Just want to point out, lizards are not ancestral to dinosaurs in any way. Lizards evolved after dinosaurs. They evolved around the same time birds did.
So this is a little graphic here. Are dinosaurs equal to birds?
Well, it depends. In a mathematical sense, with the what am I trying to say? Commutative property? No, right? Like, if you say birds are dinosaurs, that's true. But if you say dinosaurs are birds, that's not true. So, are dinosaurs and birds equal? Are they the same thing? No. Dinosaur is a group that contains birds, right? It's like Jackson is a group that contains both Charles Jackson and Jackson Wheat.
Yeah.
But I would not say that those two are the same people. Although
I
I've
would
never...
certainly hope not.
You know what, though, Jackson? I've never seen you and Charles Jackson in the same room together at the same time. And I'm just saying...
Would you look at that? It's time for commercial break. Wow.
Just saying, it's a little suspicious. I think you should probably go see Charles Jackson and get a picture of the both of you standing together, holding up the current day's newspaper.
I think I'm good on that. I don't think I want to be that close to.
No? Okay. Dr. Dino says, Dapper is a neck/tail size queen confirmed? No, I'm not confirming or denying. I'm just saying that everyone is allowed to have their own preferences when it comes to neck length, neck girth, tail length, tail girth, tail flexibility, all that stuff, right? You know, you're allowed to have your own preferences. And then Roshina Illegal Taxon Keller for $1.99 says, some emus are sensually attracted to humans. That is a weird thing. I don't know how I feel about it. But thank you.
And we were talking, some of us, yesterday when I was first meeting Michael and Terry and all about how they really are. There's a move in the evolutionist community to change the classification of birds so they don't get their own class anymore. The class Aves will be commuted and subsumed under class Reptilia.
Okay. This is dumb, and I'm going to have to take a drink before we talk about it. You know, I think I actually drink the most for This Is Dumb with Charles Jackson, which is weird because I don't actually consider him to be the dumbest. But for some reason, almost everything he says, I'm just like, oh my goodness. So, yeah, here's a drink. Flip23 says, AIG is a bag of necks, which in this context, I think is going to count. So thank you very much. That was for $2. And we'll take a drink for it. Okay, so, hey Jackson.
Yes, sir.
What does it mean for a taxon to be labeled a class?
Well, it's just a grouping that is larger than an order, or I mean, it's
Yeah, but what is an
ranked
order?
above an order.
What's an order, though?
Well, that's the thing. It is a group that is ranked above a family.
Well, what's a family?
The group that is ranked above a genus.
Well, what's a genus?
But that's the thing, Dapper. It's a group that is ranked above a species.
So none of these things have any kind of objective meaning? They're just kind of arbitrary?
That's the best news, Dapper. That is correct. They're all completely arbitrary.
So does it mean anything for someone to say that the class Aves is now part of the class Reptilia?
Not really, especially since Reptilia was already paraphyletic because it includes crocodilians, which are more closely related to aves they are to all other reptiles. Well, it depends on where turtles go, but lizards and snakes.
Turtles just don't count. They're not real.
Turtles do not count.
They're like birds, also not real.
That's what they hide in their shell is the recording box.
Right. Yeah, there's a little black box in there. As to exceptions, prove its binary, Ryu, for $2 say, and some humans are sensually attracted to emus. You know what? I'm sure that's true. That's humans will do all. Yeah, a lot. Yep. Take him a drink. Wait, no, that's not a drink trigger. That's just a thing. Okay, let's hit play. Jeez, I have no idea
for 2024.
Look, it's been a day, okay? It's been a day.
True.
And it'll become order of that birds will be officially called reptiles, but really...
Look, they are reptiles, right? They're diapsids. You can tell embryologically they're diapsids. They're archosaurs. They're dinosaurs. Even Matt McLean, Young Earth Creationist, is fully on board with this. But here's the thing. Modern paleontologists and taxonomists don't really care that much about taxonomic ranks because they're arbitrary. They don't really mean anything. They're just kept out of tradition. And there is a number of workers in biological fields that don't really think we should keep them. I tend to actually agree, right? I feel like since they don't objectively exist in any meaningful way, there's not a whole lot of reason to keep them. And I think that they're more trouble than they're worth. I think they mislead people.
I think you can keep the name, but otherwise, like denoting them as like specific ranks, I think is kind of pointless.
Right.
I mean, you can say like, okay, all crown birds are aves, or aves, whichever, and then them plus the stem birds is aviale, and then them plus dromaeosaurs and oviraptorosaurs is paraves, and so on and so on.
But Jackson, those are all stem birds. Pterosaurs are stem birds.
Yes, I like stem. Yeah, stem.
We could just say aviale is anything that's closer to, say, aves than it is to troodon.
Yeah. So, and then you add like Archaeopteryx and
the
all those guys, Enantiornithine, all those, and then but at any rate, so like you can have the names for the clades, but it really doesn't matter whether you call it a class or an order or whatever. It really doesn't matter. I mean, that's why we replaced like strict taxonomy with cladistics. That's the whole point.
Yep. The Fallen, who's been a member for 17 months and is at the amnio level, thank you very much, says, I love that I can leave for 30 minutes and still know what's being talked about because creationists recycle the same 5 points over and over. Yeah, they are a little repetitive. That's why sometimes I change it up with like some Roger from Mud Fossil U, or like that weird guy who thought that his Eastim fascination extended to the Egyptians for some reason. That was a thing. Seafaring Protocordate for $2 with their first super chat. Thank you so much. Says, on that note, AIG is a sack of swinging cedars, and we will take a drink for that. Thank you very much. Gotta love incorporating the biblical dick joke in there. All right.
The under order Dinosauria, because birds.
No, it's Avidinasauria.
Shut up, Jackson. Also, I haven't checked. Like, do people still say the order Dinosauria? Like, what happens if I type Dinosauria? Here's what I'm actually just gonna check like the Wikipedia because they give you like a bland version of just like whatever the consensus is, right? Let's see. Dinosaur, a diverse group of reptiles. The clade dinosaur. Yeah, people aren't even really calling it an order.
Wow, it goes from it's domain, kingdom, phylum, clade.
Yeah, the clades include like domain Eukaryota, kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, but then it's clade Sauropsida, clade Archosauria, clade Ava Metatarsalia, clade Ornithodyra. Which, by the way, good luck finding animals that are in Ornithodyra Ava Metatarsalia that aren't already in Ornithodyra.
I was about to say I thought those were.
They're basically synonymous.
They go to the same. They're linked to the same page.
Yeah. Dinosauromorpha, Dinosauriformes, Dracohors, and then Dinosauria, in 1842. Yeah, it's... People don't even say the order Dinosaur. I've not heard that.
Yeah.
Probably in 25 years or something. Like, it's not a current term.
Yeah.
As to exceptions prove its binary, Ryu for $5 says, Tepper, why do you remind me of Andrew Hall and his Eastim thing? Is this punishment for my comment about emus? Joke. Actually, yes. Yes, it is. Had to remind you guys of Andrew Hall, the guy who, decided to share with the whole world that he's super into Eastim. Which, you know what? Hey, good for him. Just
He's into what?
Eastim. Oh, Jackson, you sweet summer child.
Am I like having a strong? I don't know what you're saying.
It's E, like the letter, and then STIM, and you should look that up on your work computer. Trust me.
Now I feel like I shouldn't because you said it that way.
No, you should absolutely only look it up on your work computer. Trust me, it's going to be great. Here we go.
Oh.
Evolved from dinosaurs.
Did you just look it up?
I did, and you know what? Good for him. No. Oh.
I need to turn this on.
Oh no,
I
technical
need to
difficulties.
plug it
Jackson's a
in.
professional.
At work.
So
wife
on
calls
my
this a
channel,
Mensa moment.
on Thursday, we're watching, or we just finished yesterday watching, oh shoot, what's his name? Kurt Wise. And Kurt Wise did not have a remote for the slideshow, so you have to walk over to the computer
Oh no.
and hit like the enter button every single time he wanted to change slides. It was crazy. We were like, oh my gosh, there he goes again.
Just stay by the computer at that point.
Yeah, you can't, because you'll like go to the computer, hit enter, then like walk to the front of the room and like.
Was it a
they're like,
laptop? Was it a laptop? Could he have taken the laptop with him?
I mean, I suppose you have. I don't know, but it was pretty funny.
Goop23 for $2 says emu stim. Oh no. Oh, this stream is not keeping its PG-13 rating. Sorry, guys.
I am in Mensa 98th percentile IQ group.
Jeez, take a drink. Here's what Mensa is. It's a club for people who like to smell their own farts about how smart they think they are. That's it.
Sorry, what was like? I think I laughed at that for the wrong reasons. I don't know.
Maybe. Look, here's the thing about Mensa. You don't actually need to take any kind of rigorous IQ test. They'll send you a test. They want you to join because it makes them money, and you want to join because you're really, really arrogant. That's it. That's all Mensa is. Look, Orphan Red, the Flat Earth adult film actress, got into Mensa. It's not the bragging rights that anyone thinks it is. Every single person who says, well, I'm in Mensa, I immediately assume that they're actually an idiot. Passed the Mensa entrance exam, which again, a flat earther passed. And flat earthers are almost by definition the dumbest people possible. I mean, like, short of being in a vegetative state.
But God makes me do something stupid in front of a lot of people once a day.
No, man, it's just that you're actually stupid, and you're stupid enough to think that being in Mensa means something, which is itself a sign of being stupid.
I mean, maybe God really is punishing him. I mean, like, for being a creationist or something. I could actually believe that.
I mean, yeah, okay, maybe.
So I don't become obnoxious and prideful.
Yeah, that ship has sailed. Let's take a drink for that. Jeez.
I'm hoping that was the only one for today. Okay. God created birds on day 5. Genesis 1:20-23. All land animals, including the dinosaurs, because they creeped on the earth, were created on day 6, including humans. Birds did not evolve from dinosaurs. This I know, for the Bible tells me so. The Bible...
It's literally like the Pelagia meme.
It is. It is. Roshina, illegal taxon Keller for $4.99 says, did you know farts rapidly cool when they leave the body as the gas expands? I'm not even in Mensa. I did know that because of, the ideal gas law. Even though farts are not ideal gases in more ways than one. So here's the thing about this argument. And I never have understood this argument, right? Because the thing is, okay, sure, I get that creationists don't think that there's an evolutionary relationship between birds and dinosaurs, but they also don't think that there's an evolutionary relationship between all birds or all dinosaurs, right? Like, the average creationist does not think that crows share common ancestry with, like, ostriches, or that ducks share common ancestry with parrots. They think those have separate ancestry. Now, exactly where they draw the lines varies. Okay, fine. But I've never heard of any of them say that all birds share a common bird ancestor, or that all dinosaurs share a common dinosaur ancestor. Ever. And also, I've never heard a creationist say that all mammals share a common ancestor. But creationists seem pretty open to the idea that whales were created on day 5, and that, say, camels, another group of archaeodactyls, were made on, say, day 6. Because here's the thing, right? When the Bible says that it says the flying things of the air. It doesn't even actually say the birds of the air. It says the flying things of the air. It uses the word ophanim, which just means a thing with a wing. It literally means winged things, which would mean it can cover bats and birds, and it can cover pterosaurs and flying insects, because it literally is not a description of like a group of organisms united by anything other than having wings. Right? A lot of times people say, well, the Bible conflates bats with birds. It actually doesn't. There's actually another word for bird that specifically means like the feathery animals and doesn't include things like bats in Hebrew. But most of the time, with the word Hebrew that's being used and translated as bird is winged things. But that's not a term we use in English. So anyway, getting past that, right? So yeah, the Bible is not describing these creation days as being taxonomically based. It's being based on the habitat, right? And creationists accept the validity of groups like Archaeodactyla and Mammalia and Eukaryota and things like this, right? They just don't think that they reflect evolutionary ancestry. So there's no reason for creationists to think that it's inconsistent to say some dinosaurs are land creatures and some of them are flying things, just like some mammals are land creatures and some of them are flying things and others of them are aquatic things. And therefore, that taxonomic group is split between the 2 days of creation 5 and 6, right? It's a perfectly consistent thing to do. They're just wrong about this for no reason. Got a few things to read. Let's see. First, Pillapunk half dog, half canine says, nobody who cares about IQ understands what IQ is. Yeah, I would generally agree with that. IQ it's basically worthless. What it tends to measure is basically roughly how much money you have, is a closer approximation. It's sort of like your intelligence heavily discounted by how privileged you are. As to expectations prove it's binary, Ryu for 666 says, did he actually just say, for the Bible tells me so? Yes, he did. Star Song for $2 says, farts are flammable. Yes, they are. Vandalia 1998 for $4.99 says, speak of clades when I hear Ned, how many clades were just between amniotes and mammals? I think my brain broke. And that's just the named ones. Yeah, no, if you were to try to include all the unnamed clades that we have good evidence for, holy crap, would there be a lot of clades out there. Just so many. There's a good reason we don't name all. All right, here we go.
It tells us where birds came from, and it isn't like what the Smithsonian says.
Okay, but the Bible's wrong. At least if you take it literally in that area. I'm sorry. There's just no other way to go about it, right? We know the Bible is wrong about certain things. There's certain things it seems to be right about, right? Like its account of, say, like King Darius and his conquests. That seems reasonably accurate. It got the names of various Roman officials in Judea right in the Gospels. We know there's at least some historicity behind, like, say, the first Maccabees, which, granted, isn't in Charles Jackson's Bible, but it's in the Bible of most Christians. So, like, yeah, the Bible is not a book that is either all true or all false. And also, a lot of stuff in the Bible, it doesn't really have a true-false category. Like, books like Tobit and Job were almost certainly written as fiction, and no one was ever supposed to think that they were literal history, right? Like, that's not a thing. So yeah, like, can you say, is the book of Judith true? Well, I don't know. Is the Lord of the Rings true? Well, no, but that doesn't make it false. It's not a lie. So let's see. Old Man Writer of Mensa's Guide to Fart Smelling for $2 says AIG is a bag of Mensa member. So I'll take a drink for that. And then DM Google Debunker Wing for $2 says, what day were whales created on? With 4 pride flags. And I would say that the assumption in the Bible, and I think what most young recreationists would say, they were made on day 5 with the other aquatic and flying organisms. Jackson, have you ever heard any creationists say something other than that?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah. So
except for the I guess the very few people who say I can't discount that Pakicetus was on the Ark, but that's very few.
Yeah, I think Todd Wood and that guy that you're doing the series on, what's his name?
Kurt Wise.
Kurt Wise. I think those are the only two I can think of.
Pretty much, yeah.
And they got so much heat for saying that from the other creationists.
Oh well, sure. I mean, they've gotten heat for saying a lot of things, like that Australopithecus sediba is in the human holobaromon.
Yeah, although the heat was mostly just a whole bunch of harumphing and not a whole lot of refuting of the data that they used, which is interesting. Of course, the problem is, if you put Australopithecus sediba in the Homo category, there's a clear continuity between that and other earlier Australopithecines, so it's kind of just started the slippery slope to including all of hominini in, the Homo holobaromon. Oops. And by the way, holobaromon is one of those made-up terms that creationists use to, pretend that they're not doing taxonomy, or, phylogeny and cladistics, when that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, they just stole the prefixes directly from paleontology.
Yeah.
All it did.
Exactly.
How many saw Jurassic Park?
I did.
The handsome guy that looks like me in the movie,
Who is he talking about?
Oh, Jeff Goldblum.
He looks like Jeff Goldblum? I mean, I guess they're both kind of tall.
Kind of tall, with the glasses. I mean, I guess, sure, if you close both of your eyes, he kind of looks like Jeff Goldblum. Yeah,
sure, I guess. I don't really see it, but...
If you are a Mexican blind cavefish...
Also, I gotta say, we have 92 people watching, but only 44 likes, which means that, again, unfortunately, I like less than half of you, half as well as you deserve. So hit that like button, everyone. It really does help.
I do also think... I think also that, Dr. Grant's pretty handsome. I think Sam Neill is a handsome dude.
But this guy doesn't look anything like Sam Neill. I'm not saying
that he sure doesn't.
The guys on Jurassic Park aren't generally handsome, right? Because it's a Hollywood movie. You generally hire attractive people. I'm saying I don't see who he thinks he resembles.
He thinks he resembles Jeff Goldblum and
I don't. Okay.
An inch taller than me. But now he sells apartments. Change your apartment, change the world. He's also the gang master challenge guy on Ragnarok.
Ragnarok? I don't think that's a thing. I'm pretty sure he just made that up.
That's not the name. I mean, in the movie Thor Ragnarok, that's not the name of the planet that he was. Whatever. Anyway,
I'm just gonna take a drink for all of that because I forgot that was even around. That he could not even be possibly referencing Thor Ragnarok. Gee.
Well, remember, he's like, I have nerd cred because I've seen and know what Star Trek is.
Yeah. Look. I'm normally not a big fan of gatekeeping, but I can say on behalf of all nerds...
No, do it.
We don't want Jackson. Bad Jackson, that is.
Yeah, I've never felt more gatekeepy than listening to Charles Jackson about nerd culture.
Yeah, and it's not because he doesn't know enough, or because he doesn't like the right thing. It's because he's a horrible person, and I don't want him anywhere near any group that I identify with.
Well, anyway, this is a scene from the second Jurassic Park movie. Remember where the little girl was on the beach when all those little dinosaurs come up and bite her? And she goes, "Why? Hello." And she actually says this line in the movie, "Are you some kind of little bird?" It doesn't look like a bird. It has no feathers, but it's making these little bird sounds.
Yes, I do remember the first scene of the second Jurassic Park movie.
They having listened to chickens, I'm pretty convinced that the Dilophosaurus, noises, the chittering it does, is just chicken noises.
I don't know, but it certainly seems reasonable.
That's my guess.
As to exceptions prove its binary review for $5 says, and I'm almost certainly going to screw this up, Ragnarok and Ragnaroker, either works. Not Ragnaroth. Yeah, that definitely doesn't work. That one doesn't work. What the hell, Mr. Eye Potato? Yeah, I don't know. Or just go with the English, Ragnarok, right? It's Ragnarok in English. Spelled with a CK and no diaris or slash through the O. Yeah. Oh, Matthew K says, I believe any nerd with a brain agrees a dapper dinosaur. Okay, good. I'm glad I'm not alone in my, like, general distaste for nerd gatekeeping, except when it comes to people like Charles Jackson. Yeah.
Because that's what the evolutionists want you to think, that dinosaurs, eventually, they were so much like birds, they just changed into birds. Just like the magic of evolution did it. And so...
I mean,
Composite Nathan... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you were probably... I think you were about to say the exact same thing I was, so go for it.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, Compsognathids were in, like, Coelurosauria, but they weren't particularly close to birds. I agree with your assessment that, like, that it was just that they were, like, tiny and, like, chittering, and I think that's what they were going for with it. I don't think it was meant to, like, communicate anything much deeper in that sense. I don't think it was.
DM Google Debunker Wing says, should Pro/Compsognethus have had feathers, Dapper Dinosaur? It probably should have had simple filamentous fibers coming from its skin. It would have looked a lot more like hair than modern feathers, but it should have had some kind of filamentous integument. It should not have just been naked. The almighty creature in the sky for 200 Argentinian peso says, we already had Kent Lies and Thunder. Perhaps the sequel could be Kent Ragnarot. That's actually not bad. I do kind of like that. Yeah, we might go with that. Thank you very much. All right, here we go.
And he goes, no, are you some kind of little monkey?
The answer to that is yes. She is specifically a little monkey. I know that was supposed to be a joke, but it's just not. It's just true. That little girl is a monkey. She meets every single criterion for being a monkey. There is nothing that makes a monkey that is not characteristic of her anatomy.
Now, Dwayne T. Gish, one of the granddaddies of the modern creation movement.
And, of course, the namesake of the famous Gish Gallop.
I heard him one time say that flight should be a great test case about evolution. Because if you and I were to get up out of our seats and fly, it would take some very big changes. And so a big change with all the structures that would have to change for a dinosaur to be able to become a bird, those changes would be so big, surely there'd be a lot of missing links.
So, you want to know what the funny thing is? Between, like, the transition from non-avian to avian dinosaurs is, like, no new structures were invented, and actually a lot of structures were lost because it's easier to fly when you have fewer moving parts.
Yep.
So if you compare like a dromaeosaur, for instance, or a compsognathid or something, you compare their skeleton, and then you look at like chicken or an ostrich or something, you have a lot of bone going on, like the sensacrum. So like you have like fusions of spine, fusions of the pelvis. You have the fingers are fused, right? Because Archaeopteryx, they always do that extremely dishonest take where they say, the Hoatzine has, a finger, so it's just like Archaeopteryx.
Yeah,
no.
But its fingers are fused just like any other bird. Weird, isn't it?
The fingers are fused. It has the one claw, which a lot of birds have that one claw. Unlike Archaeopteryx, which has 3 claws and unfused wing fingers, they kind of always neglect to mention that part, though, like every single time without fail. So yeah. Anyway, most of bird evolution involved fusing things, losing teeth. Right? I guess you could say they gained the beak, but like they lost their they fused the tail, just a little pygostyle.
Yep. And as ASTA exceptions prove its binary, Ryu says, for $2, we have those missing links yodeling here. And yes, I did put up my transitional dinosaur to bird slideshow while you were talking. And then Pillowpunk, half dog, half canine for $5 says, once you work through the bias, the fact that humans are monkeys becomes so visually obvious it's impossible not to see it anymore. And I agree. I agree 100%. All right, here we go.
As evidence chronicling the change that would have to... And now flight does occur in 4 classes of living things today.
We actually looking at these right now, we actually have more transitional fossils for birds than the flight capabilities for any of those other groups.
It's true, yeah. Birds have by far the best fossil record in terms of developmental flight. We have essentially no transitional insects going from non-winged insects to winged insects.
Right.
We have only the barest few for pterosaurs like Scleromoculus. When it comes to bats, we don't have anything transitioning from non-flying to flying. We just have some things that are basically refining.
They can echolocate and some that don't.
Yeah, we also have some that are like refining the fine details of their flight mechanism, like getting rid of claws and whatnot. Now, a big part of that... sorry, go ahead.
The earliest bat, I think, is Onychonycterus, which like couldn't echolocate, but otherwise they look pretty much like they look pretty similar to bats.
Yeah, their only other big difference is they have claws on all their digits instead of just the first digit. Yeah. But a big part of this, though, is that there's a big taxonomic bias, and also, at least for the insects and the pterosaurs, this is happening a much longer time ago than it is for the birds, which means that you're just not going to have as many fossils from that time period, right? The farther back in time you go, the less surviving rock there is from that time. Just how geology works. With bats, a big part of it is that their habitat tends to be forested, which is abysmal for preserving fossils. We have so few fossils from forests, it's ridiculous. You might say, well, what about the petrified forest? Yeah, that was actually a swamp. If you're talking about non-wetland forests, they basically don't exist in the fossil record. We know they must have existed, but we have virtually no examples of fossils from them because the soil is so incredibly non-conducive to fossilization. Basically, nothing is fossilized in forest soil, whereas in a swamp, things can fall into like anoxic or like highly acidic water and get covered easily and not rot that fast. Because swamps, including bogs, are not the same thing as forests, even if they both have lots of trees. All right, here we go.
Most of what we know about like the evolution of like insect flight and metamorphosis and stuff, that's like all derived from like developmental studies of extant insects.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of fossil evidence for that, which is unfortunate. But then again, our fossil evidence for early insects is extremely scant anyway.
Yeah, it's like we have the first hexapod is Reniella, I think, and it's a like a colymbolin or something, so they're like a stem colymb. And then other than that, then insects just kind of show up in the slightly later, so it's like, not super great.
Yep. And in part, that's just because they tend to be tiny.
Mm-hmm.
Big things preserve better.
In class Insecta, in class Reptilia, under order Pterosauria.
The fact that he keeps using these taxonomic ranks is super, super cringy. Like, dude, you're trying to overturn science. Science is no one says class X anymore because it doesn't mean anything. And I know we've already gone over it, so I'm not going to try to belabor it much more. But, it's really not, a thing that really exists.
And again, pterosaurs are way closer to birds than they are to anything else.
It's true, yeah.
They're closer to birds than they are to crocodilians, than they are to lizards and snakes, to turtles.
Yep.
So why you would classify them as reptiles and
also
not birds?
I would argue that it's possible, although far from definitive, that you might be able to say that Scansoriopteridae independently evolved the ability to fly. So, just putting that out there. I don't necessarily think it's true, but it's something you could argue for.
And in class Aves, which we're going to talk about today, and in class Mammalia, under order Chiroptera, or the bats. But let's take a look. I told you they had found in the 90s.
Wow.
By that time,
1998?
Yeah, and this was recorded a year ago.
So close to the present.
I know. Well, for creationism, we are, right? We're fewer than 50 years away from this source, so for creationists, this is cutting edge.
They'd found a lot of fossils they thought were missing.
Which they were, if by missing link you mean transitional.
It depends on what you mean. When you say, I assume he's talking about the Chinese deposits, which, sure, in the sense of, again, as Dapper said, it depends on how you define transitional. Because, it did turn out that a lot of these theropods had feathers, like Archaeopteryx and Bipedalosaurus and Microraptor and all these dinosaurs that were found in these these Cretaceous deposits in China, it's like they all had feathers, which shouldn't be the case, right? If
Right.
birds and dinosaurs are unrelated, which is why Minton, before he died, took the fiducia position of like, if it has feathers, it's a bird,
Yep.
which means Velociraptor's a bird, and
Yep.
like you have to make some
And
really weird.
He put up his weird reconstruction of Velociraptor where he gave it a beak, got rid of its teeth, and got rid of its hypertrophy digit 2 and replaced it with a normal size digit 2, which means he was just lying.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
It also means that Tyrannosaurs are birds because Eutyrannus and Bylong both had feathers.
And Nanosaurus almost certainly did too, although we don't have direct evidence.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm just saying the ones we do have like direct fossil evidence for.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which,
So
by the way,
Tyrannosaurs are birds.
It's funny because Tyrannosaurus tends to be the animal that creationists point to as like a particularly non-bird-like theropod. When they're like, see, how ridiculous is it that T-Rex is a bird? And yet they will also cite Alan Fiducia, the guy who, if they took him seriously, they would have to agree with him that Tyrannosaurus is probably a bird. It's like, yeah, guys, that's maybe not your best look. Now, to be fair,
Balance.
the ones that Alan Fiducia is the most confident in being birds would be Maniraptorans, which would mean Tyrannosaurus Rex technically wouldn't be in there, because he likes to pretend that the integuments that we find in things like like Eutyrannus or Archaeopteryx and things like that are actually just collagen fibers. He's wrong, because collagen fibers don't contain melanosomes, and these feathers do. But yeah. So Nestle 20 says there's also a small possibility that basal pseudoseuchians were fuzzy, not feathers, more like what pterosaurs had. I actually tend to favor that possibility. I think the fact that pycnofibers seem to have some structural similarities to protofeathers is a pretty big coincidence for it not to actually be the basal condition for possibly even Archosauria. Pseudoseuchians, like I'm a less inclined, but if you're gonna go for like Ava metatarsalia, then yeah, I'm a pretty big proponent of fuzzy Ava metatarsalia. Fuzzy Archosauria as a group, maybe. I'm not gonna say it's yes. It would be fun. I would love to think about basal pseudoseuchians running around with fuzziness.
I think I went to. I cannot remember precisely. I think Julia Clark proposed something like that at a lecture I went to. I'm not positive. I have to see if she's written anything about that, like in the literature. But I feel like I remember her saying that. Like that was a hypothesis she also considered plausible.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't rule it out, right? Like, it's certainly plausible.
I could be wrong, and if anyone like wants to call me on that, that's fine. But like, I remember her saying that.
I think that's going beyond the evidence, but I think it's going beyond the evidence in a direction that is not at all precluded by the evidence.
Sure.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to get myself a fresh drink, and then we will be back in just a few minutes. In the meantime, hopefully you guys can enjoy the musical stylings of one Bent Hovind, assuming that it isn't muted for just no reason. So we'll be back. Okay, we are back. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for sticking with us. Let's see. Nope, no new super chats to read, so that's good. I have one quick request. If you got me a tiki bug from my Amazon wish list, I've not currently received it yet, and I'm a little concerned because it's been a little while. So, if you did that, could you confirm whether or not you know it to still be on the way, or if there's been some mishap? Because I don't want you to have sent me something, and then for me not to get it, because that would suck for both of us. So, but with that being said, I will do my quick midstream little commercial, which is to say, hey guys, this channel is almost entirely supported directly through the generosity of you, my viewers. Without you, this channel could not exist as it does now, doing usually 3 shows a week, although this week, I've been on, 5 shows between 2 different channels? And I think actually by the end of it, I'll be on 6, because I believe there's another Unnamed Tavern over on Chesh's channel. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot. And that's because you guys are supporting it. You're the reason I can spend a full time every day doing channel stuff, making videos, finding new things to cover, writing scripts, animating, all that stuff. And if you're currently someone who is not supporting financially, but you're interested in it, and you can afford it, which is very important, do not put me as a priority. Only if you can afford it. But you do want to help out that way. There are a number of options. The best one, as far as me keeping the most of the money, is the Patreon. Patreon starts at $1 a month. It goes all the way up to $100 a month if you wanted to. You get a 15% discount for going annually. There's also the channel memberships. I could make a little bit less on that. There's a join button right below this for the Patreon. There's a link in the description. Either way, you get access to the supporter-only Discord server. You also get early access to all of my pre-scripted videos, usually months and months ahead of time. And if you join the memberships, you also get, the cool emojis just for the channel, the green name, the symbol after your name, all that stuff. So that's one of the advantages of going with the channel memberships. It's also why they start a little bit more expensive. If neither of those are your thing, you just don't want to do an annual or a monthly pledge, that's fine too. There's other ways. As I said, there's an Amazon wish list. There is the merch store right below this video. You should see a merch shelf. Feel free to click on any of that. If you don't like the things that are in there, click on them anyway, and it'll bring you to the full store. There's more stuff on there. There's also one way to help me that is not directly giving me money, but that is helping me get my videos out on time, which is rendering for me on Sheepit. There's a section in the description, how to render for me. You go to the Sheepit website, you download the client, you enter my username and the key that's in there, which is just a key that lets you render for me, and then I will get points for the free render farm that I use. Because it's free in the sense that I don't send them money, but it's not free in the sense that when I render, I use points that were gained by me or any of you rendering for me, which are then deducted, which means that the next time, my next render will have a lower priority unless I make those points back up. So you can help me make those points up. And then last but not least, whether or not you want to support financially, I would ask that if you enjoy what I do, please hit the like button, share my videos, watch a few videos in a row, and comment. But also don't comment and use the word algorithm, because the algorithm knows. All of those things will help my channel. Jackson, do you have anything that you want to plug before we get into this?
Oh, not really.
All right, well then here we go.
Getting it. And so they put them all together and made this little chart. 1998, July, National Geographic put out a special edition. Just every once in a while, a magazine will put out a special edition, Life, Newsweek.
Yes, this is how magazines work, dude. Just get to the point.
Time, Omni, Wired, they'll all of them, every once in a while, every year or two.
Jeez, I'm taking a drink. I can't stand this.
They'll put up some special edition. It's all feature article, a lot of articles about so true, so proved, everybody knows it. It's propaganda.
If you say it more than once, it's more true.
Yeah. Also, I mean, technically it is propaganda, right? It is communication designed to convince people of an idea. But the thing is, propaganda doesn't make it false. That's the thing. Propaganda has a nasty reputation, but basically it's just media output designed to convince people of the truth of a certain position. That position doesn't have to be false in order for there to be propaganda about it. And so, yeah, if you're a magazine whose primary goal is to increase scientific literacy, then your job is to put out pro-science propaganda. That's what that is. I'm sorry that the word propaganda currently has a negative connotation, in large part because of various dictatorial regimes from the 20th century. But whatever.
They're not doing it on purpose. It's the prince of the power of the air, the father of lies.
Satan is in control of National Geographic. You heard it here first, folks. I'm taking a drink. Jeez. For $4.99.
Wait, hold on. We have to find out. I have to know. Who owns National Geographic? Oh, it's owned by Disney. The mouse is Satan. I knew it all along.
Man.
The clues were there.
We should have known. All right. Roshan, an illegal taxon killer for $4.99 says, these kids are young. Bad Jackson has to describe the concept of magazine to them. Yeah, that's possibly true. Possibly true. Oh.
That's like that scene from Family Guy where Brian goes to a bar to like hit on like young college women, and he's like, "I wrote a book," and she goes, "What's a book?" Because it's like a Twitter on a paper or on paper or something like that. That's what this is.
Yes.
And he's extremely good at tricking people. He's tricked you. Well, we could talk about that. Well, anyway, in 1998, this issue of National Geographic came out, and look what it says: Dinosaurs take wing, the origin of birds. So there's a little dino
picture right there. That's probably Caudipteryx, which we know for an absolute fact had feathers because it's preserved with feather imprints all over it.
Yeah, you can look at the fossil, and it's just covered in feathers.
Like, this thing is so... Caudipteryx is actually in an interesting position where there have been debates over whether or not it is like an avialin.
Yeah.
That's how birdy it is.
Mm-hmm.
Which doesn't typically happen. Like, as far as I'm aware, no one's ever argued that for like Microraptor or something. But like, this guy has actually been argued to be a bird by people who professionally study bird fossils.
Yeah.
So, however, Archaeopteryx has in some papers been argued to be a dromaeosaur. So, with that information.
Well, you know, when you look at various studies, sometimes birds are recovered as nesting within Deinonychosauria. So I pretty much always see them as either just basal, like just branching just basally to Deinonychosauria, or nesting sometimes inside Deinonychosauria. So, like, you know, if Archaeopteryx were a dromaeosaurid, I wouldn't exactly be like, oh no, how could this changes everything? And just be like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
And like, I think that it's like the characteristic that separates like Archaeopteryx from Microraptor is like powered flight, right? Flapping their wings for powered flight.
I mean, there's more than just that separates the two genera, but like
that's like one of the big ones, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a big part of it.
Oh, bird right there. And this is that chart I was talking about. Look, there's a little...
So here's the thing. Overall, this chart is not that bad, except that it has the same problem as the March of Progress, right? It's overly orthogenetic. It portrays the evolution of birds as this step-by-step process that was just sort of inevitable, and that's just the direction that evolution was pushing animals in. When in fact, we know that before you get to birds, there are all these branching directions that went off in different morphological directions that had their own various characteristics that were not unaligned to birds, but were increasingly closely related to birds. And I don't think this picture does a great job of expressing. But other than that, I mean, all the animals pictured are reasonable reconstructions of real animals.
Fuzzy plucked chicken lizard, the Cinerintha, the Sinosauropteryx.
It's Sinosauropteryx. It comes from the same, you know, name for China that you find in things like Sino-Tibetan, or, you know, the various wars that start with the prefix Sino, indicating that China was involved. But yeah, okay, the Sinosauropteryx, the most sinful of dinosaurs.
Then it turned into the famous Velociraptor, which has swiveling wrists, which could be the bones in birds' wings that help them steer while they fly.
No, more specifically, it and birds have a semilunate carpal, a structure that is unique to Maniraptora and does the same thing in all Maniraptorans, which is allow the side of the hand that's like the same side as your pinky to rest against the ulna. You try to do that. Try to take your pinky and make it rest flat against your ulna. Can't do it, can you? all Maniraptorans can. Why is that? A weird sort of thing for them to all share. Yeah.
And then the Unenlagia, then the Caudipteryx, the Proto-Archaeopteryx. What's a
It's Proto-Archaeopteryx, but whatever.
prototype? Anybody?
It's the first version of a thing.
The first thing, yeah.
Yay.
Pro means before. So the pro...
It actually means first. You literally just said... Let me take... Proto, it's not just pro. Pro would mean before or in front of, but it's... Proto and pro are probably etymologically related, but they're not the same thing.
Seeding program, whatever. The prototype, Proto-Archaeopteryx means... Literally, the name means before Archaeopteryx.
No, it means the first Archaeopteryx, but whatever. It's actually Pro-Archaeopteryx as far as I remember. Or no, it's Proto-Archaeopteryx. It does mean first, but whatever.
And there's the Archaeopteryx, which has wings, a perching feet, a bird.
Nope, doesn't have perching feet. And this is far too recent for him not to know that. Here's the thing. Originally, it was reasonable to conclude that Archaeopteryx had an inverted hallux, which is what that means, a perching foot, right? A big toe that opposes the other three, so it can grab onto a branch. But it turns out that based on subsequent finds of Archaeopteryx, that was a taphonomic artifact in the first Archaeopteryx, which means it was an artifact of how they were buried and preserved, which disarticulated that toe. In life, they had a dew claw like any other dinosaur, or theropod specifically. Archaeopteryx did not have a perching foot.
I'm pretty sure he's probably getting this from like Bodie Hodge. Bodie loves to quote that stupid Alan Fiducia quote that's like, it's a bird, a perching bird. No amount of paleobabble is ever going to change that.
Yeah, except
like,
that
Fiducia was just dead wrong on this point, actually.
Yeah, he was flatly incorrect. Roshina Illegal Taxon Keller for $1.99 says Gerbilociraptor with a little gerbil face. That would be cute. I would see that movie about the Gerbilociraptors. There we go. Killing the humans. Yeah. It'd be like Night of the Lepus. You ever see Night of the Lepus, Jackson?
I have not.
It's a horror movie about giant rabbits that go around killing people. But the problem is that most of the shots of the giant rabbits are regular sized rabbits on miniature sets going around like just doing rabbit stuff. Awesome. And it's so adorable. It's like it's supposed to be a horror movie, but there's just adorable little rabbits stomping around a tiny little miniature set and sniffing at things, and you're just like, "Oh,
I love that so much." I watched a movie with a friend that was called like Llamas from Space.
Oh, geez,
and it's clearly just like a llama, just a normal llama, but they've like superimposed like these red lights over the eyes.
Of course.
And so he's just kind of like looking around. It's supposed to be like menacing. It's a B movie, and so it's like it's funny bad.
That's awesome.
It was pretty great.
All right, here we go.
Bird-like skull. It has a keel for the anchoring of the flight muscle.
Archaeopteryx does not have a keel, my guy. I'm taking a drink. Why? What is it with Creationist and just lying about Archaeopteryx? It doesn't have a keel. Jeez.
Actually, I just looked it up. A well-preserved Archaeopteryx specimen with theropod features. This paper shows that Archaeopteryx lacked a reverse toe, a universal feature bird, limiting its ability to perch on branches and implying a terrestrial or trunk-climbing lifestyle. That is from 2005.
Yep. So, almost a decade before this presentation. So, is Charles Jackson keeping up with the paleontology?
This was last year?
Yep.
So almost 2 decades.
Oh, yeah. I'm forgetting what decade we're in. Jeez. So, yeah, Charles Jackson is almost 2 decades out of date. He's not keeping up with the literature. And the thing is, like, look, I don't require people to keep up with the literature in order for me to think that they're, like, reasonable, decent people. Unless they're giving talks on the subject where the literature has moved on. If you're not going to keep up with the paleontology literature, but you want to lecture people on paleontology, you're doing it wrong.
And it has complete feathers. It was probably not a super great flyer, this particular bird, like a pheasant or a turkey. But
fly better than a sack of potatoes.
Yeah, but it was probably worse than a pheasant or a turkey, because you know what pheasants and turkeys have that Archaeopteryx didn't? Keeled sternum.
Whoa!
Yeah.
It could fly, could get airborne. And then the Eolulavis, which then had a little thumb.
Eolulavis. It's like he's trying to say these in ways that are going to really annoy me.
I mean, I think in this case it's just kind of he's never heard it said, he's only ever read it, which, I mean, fair enough.
Okay, but even then, he should know what those terms mean, because it's the Don Alula bird, which means it's the first bird, or the oldest at the time, bird found with an alula, which is the feathery bits that are coming off of the digit 1 distal phalange, the thumb, that it can use to basically decrease its stall speed when it's coming to land, which is what modern birds use the alula for.
You are asking way too much right now, Dex.
The thing is, I'm asking way too much for Charles Jackson, but what I'm asking is what I would expect for anyone who could legitimately give a talk about the fossil record of birds. I expect anyone who knows and who would deign to give a talk about fossil birds to know what an alula is. Because it's a pretty basic part of bird wing anatomy. But interestingly, you know why we have Eolulavis? Because earlier birds didn't have an alula. It had to evolve. It is itself a transitional fossil between earlier stem birds that didn't have an alula and later stem birds that did, leading up to modern brown birds. The
But wait,
name
Dapper,
gives it away.
They played a little video that said there were no transitional fossils.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
you know
true.
this?
They did play that little video. Ugh.
Evolution debunked.
Alex Markle wants to hear him pronounce Epidexipteryx. Yeah, that.
Oh god, no. He's gonna go anyway, that guy.
Exibidicurix.
On it, inside its bones, on its wings, to help it to fly station.
Sorry?
Scansoriopterigidae. Let's get him to say it.
Look, to be fair, I have sometimes I stumble over the word Scansoriopterigidae. It's not an easy word.
It is not. That's true.
For $5, Philipon Cat Dog Half Canine says, call now to order your Archaeopteryx Pro, just 3 easy payments of $19.99. Love it. Thank you very much. Here we go.
And hover, and then the corvus, or the modern crow. Now, I mean, looks pretty good.
Yeah, it does. And really, unless you're going to present compelling evidence that those reconstructions are in error, it is pretty good.
National Geographic artists, they make it look pretty good.
That's their job.
What do we got? Well,
that's why they are paid to do that, yes. Their whole job.
Roshina Illegal Taxon Keller for $1.99 says, Dapper, can you spell these words, Dad? I mean, I think I can spell most of them. I don't know. I don't know that I want to turn this into, like, the spelling bee, but I also am pretty sure that at various points I would make mistakes with the spelling of them. Yeah.
Well, let's check it out. The evolution of birds, according to National Geographic, from that plate on page 91 and 92 in 1998.
Okay, look, to the editor, we've seen you cut to a close-up of the slides. You could do that here, right? Because apparently the slide is really important to this. Just do it. All right, here we go.
It says right up here in the corner, just as humans are mammals, birds belong to the great clan of dinosaurs, in the view of most paleontologists.
Did it really say paleoornithologists?
Did he stumble? There, he probably does. I was like, wait, what? Did he just stumble over that?
Yeah, the question is,
like, that's probably paleontologist.
Yeah, did he stumble over paleontologists, or did he just look at paleoornithologists and decide, nope, and just went with paleontologist? I mean, which one is more likely? I don't know.
There's no, like, he's been saying paleontologist the whole time. There's no way he read paleontologist and went, no. I guarantee he saw paleoornithologist.
Okay, yeah, I think that's probably true.
The idea that the defining traits of birds first arose in dinosaurs dates from the early expoundings of evolutionary theory. British biologist Thomas Henry Huxley, who you might have heard of, a great atheist evangelist.
Oh no, he was an atheist. Run for the hills.
I mean, this is a guy who, like, who he compared Archaeopteryx with, I believe it was Compsognathus, and was like, look at how similar these two are. And that was one of the first like major, I think it was in a book that I wrote. That was one of the first major times that had been like seriously pushed as a hypothesis, and then it went back and forth.
Hey, here's a fun fact. It wasn't more, I think it was less than 10 years ago that a specimen of Archaeopteryx was identified after having been for decades thought to be Compsognathus.
Really? I did not know that.
Yeah, it was really recent that the most recent, not Compsognathus, actually Archaeopteryx was discovered. Like,
pretty
really
wild. I did
recent.
not know that.
Yeah. Turns out those are animals that are very similar. Very, very similar. In fact, in some of my videos,
Crazy.
I've put up a skeleton of Velociraptor next to a skeleton of Microraptor, which creationists are happy to say is just a bird. And it's like, these are the differences in the skeletons. There's practically none. You would have to be a very well-trained anatomist to be able to look at just the skeleton of Velociraptor and just the skeleton of Archaeopteryx, if I scaled them to be about the same size, and say which one is which, or Microraptor, or any of these very early aviolans. They're just dinosaurs when you strip off the soft tissue and you look at the bones.
Yeah, I mean, even had Menton being like, was it Chenguraptor? He's like, it's identical to Archaeopteryx. Well, I mean, if we're going to say a Dromaeosaur is identical to Archaeopteryx, then, you're pulling in a lot of the most famous dinosaurs as identical to birds. Deinonychus, Velociraptor, Utahraptor,
I mean, he's far more loose with the word bird than I am in that case. I don't like to call things that aren't crown birds, although I do it sometimes. Although I do recognize that I'm unusually restricted with how I like to use the word bird. But then again, it's not a technical term, so I can do what I want with it.
1990s, a champion of Charles Darwin broached the notion in the mid-19th century. The idea was examined anew in the 1970s by Yale University paleontologist John Ostrom. They even named one of the dino bird missing links after Ostrom, who cited a host of similarities between Archaeopteryx and theropods. Now,
well, yeah, because, Archaeopteryx is a theropod. It's kind of like pointing out all the similarities between, like, say, I don't know, a bear, like a polar bear and ursids. Like, yup, there sure are a lot of similarities between polar bears and ursids. The family of the bears.
Archaeopteryx was that blue one that I said was a bird that could fly pretty good. Not great like an eagle, but could fly.
And that you lied about? That one? The one that you said had a keel even though it didn't? The one that had that didn't have an inverted hallux even though you said it did? You mean that one, Charles Jackson? I can't think of another. And the thing is, like, it's not like this is news, right? If the thing about the keel and the hallux had come out like in like 2020 or something, then okay, sure. Maybe in 2022 or 2023 or maybe this guy didn't have that information, right? Sure, maybe. But that's not when. It was like the early 2000s.
Okay, and a theropod is a dinosaur with two legs, hind legs. Can you name?
Jackson?
Yeah.
I'm going to take a drink and try to cool down a little bit. Would you like to respond about maybe any non-theropod dinosaurs that have two legs while I try not to throw anything?
I mean, technically, all dinosaurs have two hind legs.
Well,
so,
that aren't that aren't non-theropods,
right. But also,
bipeds.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are lots of ornithischians, there are prosauropods that walked on their hind legs, like Ceratosaurus and Euphrasia and Plesiosaurus. There are ornithischians that walked on their hind legs, like Iguanodon and like Sothosaurus and lots and lots of different dinosaurs that walk bipedally.
Being bipedal is the basal condition for Dinosauria as a whole. all the dinosaur quadrupeds are derived from bipeds, and in many cases fairly late on, right? Like the earliest thyreophorans, we already find them in like the early Jurassic period. They're bipeds. Like Scutellosaurus, biped. Our earliest ceratopsians, like Leptoceratops and Protoceratops, bipeds. Our earliest prosauropods, like you already mentioned, bipeds. Our most ornithopods, bipeds. Heterodontosaurids, these are ornithischians, not theropods, bipeds. There are more bipedal dinosaurs that aren't theropods than there are quadrupedal dinosaurs that aren't theropods. Using bipedality to identify theropoda is completely useless. Completely. Now, granted, we don't know of any quadrupedal theropods. So at least you can say if it's got 4 legs, it's probably not a theropod. Okay, fair enough. But there are actually synapomorphies that you can use to identify theropoda. One important one, especially for earlier theropods, is a notch between the maxilla and the premaxilla. It's extremely noticeable in animals like Dilophosaurus, but it's present across a huge swath of later theropods too. Now, birds have pushed their premaxilla to be almost the entirety of the beak, so it's a little bit cryptic in birds, but there's still a bit of a notch there. And like that's a pretty easy one, right? You just look for the notch. And like I'm gonna hit play because I don't want to keep ranting about this. Just know that saying biped, it's not gonna get you to theropod.
There were a lot of dinosaurs that didn't have 2 legs. A lot of them were 4-legged. And there were the giant swimming reptiles, the Mosasauria, and there were...
Which aren't even dinosaurs, dude. What are you talking about?
Lizards!
Yeah,
Big lizards!
Actual
What
lizards.
do you mean?
I'm taking another... oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, does he think... He's just like, if it's prehistoric and reptilian dinosaur, he's literally like the kid who like opens one of those like prehistoric toy tubes. Just has, a bunch of different...
like tubo dinosaurs that contains a lot of non-dinosaurs.
Probably like, I wonder if a mammoth is a dinosaur.
Yeah. It's usually got like mammoths and dimetrodons and...
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, it usually has terror birds, which are dinosaurs. Alright, here we go.
The giant flying reptiles, the pterosauria. But amongst dinosauria, there were the bird hip and the lizard hip ones. And name me a dinosaur that had 2 hind legs. T-Rex, yeah. The duck-billed dinosaur. There's a whole bunch of them that walked on 2 hind legs.
So he does know about them.
Yeah, so
he is aware of them.
So he just said, duck-billed dinosaurs, which to me implies that Charles Jackson thinks that hadrosaurs are theropods. And I also want to point out, they're actually not entirely bipedal. They're facultative bipeds. But like,
gotcha.
I'm just going to take a drink for apparently this guy thinks that hadrosaurs are theropods, because I just thought he was being sloppy and he actually had a better idea of what theropods were, but no, apparently not. So, yeah.
So theropods, the 2 hind leg ones, were the ones that they think that the birds would have evolved from.
Yeah, he was also saying 2 hind legs, which, no, everything has 2 hind legs, unless it has lost them like snakes or whales.
Dinosaurs. This family tree at the left is not a chronological progression, but rather an illustration of how the traits of the modern wing evolved in different creatures in different locations at different times. The wing is a perfect example of
black screen. Oh, blue screen.
I mean, they're correct, right? Like, if you show a picture of the Microraptor, and then you show like a Shautingia, and then Archaeopteryx, like, that's not a chronological progression, but what it does show is I guess if you're taking from the perspective of like bird evolution, you could call it like a phylogenetic progression. I don't like that word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, so
you could say like these are the characteristics that you had to acquire to get to the bird condition.
Right, and you can show that they are present in a phylogenetic tree, where as you get closer and closer to birds, you get the transitional forms that would be expected. And because of how evolution works, we don't expect that all forms that are more basal in terms of, the derived traits that you're looking for in the modern organism are just going to go extinct. So of course they're not always going to be found in a strict chronological order. We don't expect that. That's not how evolution works.
Of how now I'm just going to tell you that this is not unusual for the
Rosina illegal taxon color for $1.99 says AIG esta saco di tikoi, which I believe is Esperanto. So thank you very much for that. I think I said it was for $1.99. If I didn't, well, that's how much it was for. So we will take a drink.
technology to go bad just when you're calling the devil a liar.
You know, I knew some church AV people, and they also liked to blame Satan anytime there was a technical problem. It was really weird.
The Lord told me a long time ago, He will be able to hinder you, but He will not be able to stop you. Take that.
That landed. This must be like the easiest audience in the world.
I think it's because they're all children.
Yeah.
Father of lies, the blood of Jesus. Okay, the wing is a perfect example of how nature incorporates attributes that came about for unrelated reasons into a new structure. Explains.
Yeah, that's true. Can't take a drink for it, though, because he's just reading.
Yeah.
Paleoornithologist.
Oh, he did get it this time. Congratulations. Man, you managed to say paleoornithologist.
Luis Chiappi of the American Museum of Natural History. And this is a museum plaque next to a...
Wow, I really hate the phrase the Chinese fossil dino birds.
Yeah,
I absolutely hate that.
I mean, it's the same as, like, you know, Ishapod or Frogamander or whatever. Like the portmanteau. Yeah, the portmanteau of like two different groups because it's transitional. Like, I understand why they're doing it. I still hate it.
Yeah.
Still the worst.
Yeah, they should change it. They should be made to change it. We should sue them.
The Chinese fossil dino birds have shown beyond doubt, those are the ones that are in the picture that I showed you, that feathered dinosaurs are the ancestors of birds. But fossils only go so far in telling us how fast-running predators transformed into winged masters of the sky. And living birds provide the final clues to how dinosaurs took flight. Well,
also, Roshina Illegal Taxon Keller for $1.99 says that AIG are a bag of dicks, but does it in Hebrew, and I'm not going to make you suffer through my attempts to sound out Hebrew without even having an inkling as to which vowels should be going in there. So, yeah, because I don't know if you guys know this, but my Hebrew is not very good. So here's one drink. Now, Rochnet Illegal Taxon Color for $1.99 also says AIG is a Zekelfundix. Yeah, I can see how that came out of that. So I will take a second drink for the transliteration after I pour this Baja Blast into this cup. It's hard Baja Blast. So I'll take another drink. And I will again update the count. All right, here we go.
In a little bit, we're going to have Brother Michael and his living birds will come up and we'll talk about it.
Wait, there's going to be a live animal show in this? Okay, that's actually kind of cool.
I do think you can, to some extent, you can talk about how modern birds provide clues to how dinosaurs took flight. One way is what's called the acronym WAIR, W-A-I-R, wing line running.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, obviously, birds would have had wings that were covered in feathers, but they wouldn't have been able to just fly from the get-go. Right. But you have a surface that you can flap and give yourself a little boost of speed as you, like, run up a tree trunk, for instance. Like, pretty useful.
Yeah. I agree.
But the evolutionists think, oh yes, it just makes so much sense. But much like what you've already heard, the contradictions in thinking, the internal contradictions, the little fairy tale belief and faith it takes to swallow this.
To swallow what? These are confirmed predictions of evolution based on a number of comparative anatomy and like just cladistic analyses of birds and dinosaurs and noting the similarities and then noting that there were transitional forms and then predicting further transitional forms. What faith does it possibly take to notice that the evolution of birds or predictions based on the idea of the evolution of birds from dinosaurs are routinely being fulfilled? That's not faith. That is accepting the evidence.
Also, he hasn't mentioned anything about contradictions thus far.
Yeah. No, he hasn't. Wonder why.
God.
Oh, take a turn for Godzilla.
God. Right. Well, what does the Bible tell us about all of this sort of stuff?
Basically nothing. Whispers, who's been a member for 10 months, thank you so much, and who's at the Tetrapod level, says AIG Wakaba no. Oh, we're going for Japanese, but with with Romanji. AIG Wakaba no Richatsu des. Thank you very much. Hope that was reasonably acceptable. We'll take a drink for it. Look, I really have to practice Japanese phrases before I can actually make them sound reasonably good. Which I can, but like I really have to try.
Versus what the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History and National Geographic are going to tell us. Well, according to the Bible in Genesis, the very first chapter on day 5, it tells us. That's my Bible there. Yeah, just a little scan of it.
Was that supposed to be a joke? He laughed after it. I'm going to take a drink. I don't even know.
Wouldn't it have been easier for him to just like find this on like a
Bible.com
Bible website or something? He was like, no, we have to scan my personal, clearly unreadable.
Yeah, well, I mean, he has to prove to the kids that he actually has a Bible.
But if you look in Genesis 1, verse 20, on day 5, all the things that swim in the sea and all the birds that fly in the air.
Okay, I want to point out, his day 5 image has a dolphin, which means he's okay with splitting mammals between day 5 and 6. Just putting that out there.
And God said, let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven. And God created great whales and every living creature that moveth, which the waters brought forth abundantly after their kind, and every winged fowl after his kind. And God saw that it was good. And God blessed them, saying, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the waters in the seas, and let fowl multiply in the earth. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. That's our account of where birds came from versus the National Geographic account.
Cool. Hey, you know what the National Geographic account has? Evidence. Yeah, it's got evidence. You know what this account has? Absolutely nothing, except that it's precluded by virtually every law of physics that we know of. So you know what? I know which one I'm going to take seriously as the actual literal history of birds. Roshina Illegal Taxon Killer for $1.99 says, is he bragging that he knows how to use a scanner? Possibly. That might be the point of that, is that he's bragging that he knows how to use a scanner. I think he's bragging about just having a Bible, which is a weird kind of flex, because, I mean, I think most Protestants have a Bible at home, and I know a lot of people who aren't even Christians have Bibles. Or in some cases, more than one Bible. Like, I'm pretty sure this house that I'm sitting in has, like, 7 or 8 Bibles in it.
Of where birds came from. So this chart, compelling as it is, the little pictures of everything showing the change, that's pretty strong stuff. You go to the dentist office and pick up a National Geographic or a doctor's office, and you wait in the waiting room, you look at it.
These kids aren't picking up magazines in the dentist's office. They're opening up their phones.
Anyone that flips that open goes, another triumph of Darwin's theory, modern science.
I'm just taking a drink for Darwin's theory, despite the fact that we are so beyond Darwin that he would barely recognize modern evolutionary biology.
Imagine trying to explain population genetics to Charles Darwin.
Oh my goodness, he would not have any basis for any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is... Okay, guys, Darwin isn't like a saint or a prophet or like the basis for almost all of evolutionary biology.
Continues to teach us. Well, next year, in 1999, a new fossil was discovered in China.
You want to bet that it's the one from National Geographic?
Archaeoraptor.
What is it?
Archaeoraptor.
Yeah, Archaeoraptor. I couldn't think of the name because it's
Yep,
not a real dinosaur name.
Zapper, we should bet your entire audience like 500.
Okay, guys.
Some ludicrous amount of money that they then
we go.
have to pay you.
If it's Archaeopteryx, or sorry, Archaeoraptor, everyone who's watching right now has to super chat $5. If it's not, then I have to super chat $5.
$5.
There you go.
The Archaeoraptor.
Oh my god!
Oh,
The
look at
next
that!
word!
Oh,
Take a drink,
wow,
everybody!
cough it up.
Alright, every single one of you, all 92 of you, you owe me $5 super chat that I'm going to enforce via the honor system. Here we go.
Liaogensis, which means it comes from the Liao province. Genesis.
No, it's from the Liaoning province. That's why it's not Laonensis, it's Liaoningensis. Jeez, just get something right, Charles Jackson. This is the thing that pisses me off the most about Charles Jackson, is that he gets virtually everything he says, virtually every single sentence that he says where he makes a fact claim, he is just basically wrong about something that he could just be right about. Right? Like, does it really matter that much if he knows that the province is Liaoning versus Lao? No, not really. But why are you wrong about it? Just get it right. Also, Fits of You Can't Fly Complexity Rage, thank you very much, has just gifted a membership that went to W. Swordsman. We'll take a drink for that. Alright, oh, and also we'll up the number of gifted memberships. There we go.
Even our word. Genesis means comes from.
No, it's ensis.
Oh, God.
The ning there is not part of a suffix. It's lao ning is the whole. Oh my gee!
God, he's so dumb.
Also, Bitcore is for 500 yen. There it is. Says, I guess I'll have to pay with an AIG as a bag of dicks emoji, so we will take a drink for that. And that is Bitcore's first super chat. Thank you very much. Of course, $4.99 says, rules are rules. Indeed they are. Of course, you know, they're entirely unenforceable, but, you know, don't worry about that. All right, here we go.
So it came from the Lao province. Archaeoraptor.
Again, Liaoning, but okay.
This issue of National Geographic, and this was the artist's conception of this feathered dinosaur. Mm-hmm. Now, they get this from what you have up here, which looks like somebody...
Remind me, Jackson, did they consult with paleontologists before putting this paper out? Or this article out, I suppose?
They did consult with paleontologists.
They did. And how many paleontologists encouraged them to go ahead and publish about Archaeoraptor?
0.
Weird. What did they say was going on with Archaeoraptor, the scientists that, you know, they consulted with?
They said that's totally fake.
Weird. Okay. But also...
I actually met Julia Clark, who was one of the paleontologists who got interviewed for this. Zhu Jing was another one. He's a very famous Chinese paleontologist. I've not met him, though. But I did meet Julia Clark, and she's a real nice lady.
Awesome. Well, I gotta say, thank you very much, because Regios has just gifted a... Whoops, that was wrong. That's a Dapper's a professional. I did not just get to 5,000% on this. That is me having a decimal point error there. There we go. But yes, Regios just gave $50 to say Godzilla and Mothra, and we will take a drink for that. Thank you so much. Evolution of Forkscoon for $5 says, I'm in my 60s and I open up my phone in the doctor's office. Yeah, I mean, yeah, the idea was not that it was just that they're young that they're doing that. It's just that phones are so much better. Yeah, I don't blame you. I mean, I'm in my 150 millions and I open up my phone in the doctor's office. So, or just in line anywhere. And then for $4.99, Roasting Illegal Taxonomy Color says, rules indeed fools. Thank you so much. Update this again. Here we go. All right.
These, big dinner or Kentucky Fried Dinner.
What is he talking about?
I think I forgot the first part of that sentence, I think, and then we came in on the second part, and I don't know.
Stomped in the mud, but they have to reconstruct these things from all the pressure. It's a real fossil.
Wait, is he saying it just looks like a chicken? Is that what he's saying?
Maybe. I mean, that doesn't look like any chicken I've ever seen. Maybe he just doesn't know what chickens look like. Maybe he's just never seen a chicken. Which would be weird. I mean, like...
Somehow I could actually believe that.
Yeah, okay, maybe. Yeah.
I honestly could believe that, yeah.
I mean, I feel like seeing a chicken is just a normal part of life. But then again, like, I've visited friends on, like, a farm where they had, like, multiple flocks of chickens and whatnot. So maybe I just have an unusual life experience.
When it gets broken up and they have to try to reassemble it in their minds, and then they just drew this, okay?
Okay, but the thing is, the artist wasn't going from a broken up fossil. He was going from a composite fossil that was glued together as an essentially complete fossil. If it had been an authentic fossil, it wouldn't have had to be put back together with a bunch of imagination. The feather impressions were right there, because, spoiler alerts, one of the components of this composite fossil was the actual feathered dinosaur Microraptor. It was still...
there was a bird.
It was still an actual transitional form. Well, it was two transitional fossils stuck together. The problem wasn't that it wasn't a transitional fossil, it's that it wasn't a single fossil. It was two different transitional fossils.
The dapper, and get this. The other bird, the other fossil that made up Archaeoraptor was Yanornis.
Yeah.
Another stem bird.
Yeah, it was actually even closer to birds than Microraptor is. It was in Aviale. Like, this is two different transitional fossils stuck together. The embarrassment was thinking it was a single fossil, when in fact it was two separate bird-like dinosaurs. The feathered part is accurate. The dinosaur part is accurate. The only inaccurate part was that it was a single fossil instead of being two. Dilacqueon Kennedy for $5 dues with their first super chat. Thank you so much. Says, fine, I'll pay up. Also, we definitely need to legally start calling our currency $. Dues. Yeah, you do. You really do. The fact that Australia didn't go with $do is just so disappointing. Like, come on, Australia, what are you doing? You're a country full of things like billabongs and boomerangs and whatnot, and then you're like kangaroos, yeah, wallabies, and then you're like, oh, this is the Australian dollar. Like, no, come on, that's
lame,
unacceptable. Start a petition to whatever parliamentary, whoever your parliamentarian is, MP. Write them. Start a petition to change the official name of the Australian currency to $. Dues.
And that was feathered dinosaurs, it says. In the article, it says feathers for T-Rex.
Well, first of all, I hate how they formatted it. But second, I am of the opinion that T-Rex almost certainly did not have feathers as an adult. I hold open as a juvenile. Although I will also say that every place where we have skin impressions for T-Rex, it doesn't show feathers, but also all of those places are the places that are least likely to have feathers in the first place. Places that are most likely to have feathers are like, especially the top of the tail, the whole back, the top of the head, and like the lateral side of the thighs. And those are specifically places where we don't have skin impressions for adult T-Rex. So can I say that T-Rex as an adult didn't have feathers? No. I don't think it did. I think it's probably more likely that it didn't. But I can't actually say that. And further, we know that other Tyrannosauroids did have feathers, like Eutyrannus, Dilong, almost certainly Nanosaurus, just based on its environment. So, like, this group had feathers. Did Tyrannosaurus rex, specifically that species, have feathers? I doubt it.
New bird-like fossils are missing what? Missing links in dinosaur evolution.
What I want to know is, what would a missing link look like to Jackson, to Bad Jackson, between basal dinosaurs and modern birds? If it didn't...
Oh, they will never conceptualize it.
That's part of the problem, right? Like, if it's not things like Caudipteryx, or Sinosauropteryx, or Archaeopteryx, or Microraptor, or Yanornis, or Confuciusornis. If it's not any of these things, then what the heck is it? I have trouble thinking of a more perfect transition than these things. Yeah, it's a secret third thing, of course. Ugh.
Turn into bird. Look at a baby T-Rex there. It's all fuzzy, like a baby chicken, fuzzy down, baby ducky. And they've never found this on a T-Rex.
That's true. On a T-Rex, that's true. But we have found fuzzy, downy type feathers on Eutyrannus and Dylon. So, I mean, it's kind of like remember I used the example of a bear, right? Like the short-faced bear was it's an extinct American bear whose closest living relative is the Andean or spectacled bear in South America, right? It's the only remaining member of the subfamily Tremarctinae. Let's say that we found it with a really well-preserved fossil that had some like fuzzy fur impressions. Okay. And now we know that it has modern relatives, like the modern Andean bear or the spectacled bear. Okay. But then we have another fossil bear, right? Say from Europe. And then Charles Jackson says, okay, yeah, but you never actually found any direct evidence that European fossil bear had fur. He would be right. That's 100% true. We didn't. So what's the proper way to reconstruct this bear? Fur or no? Obviously, it's yes, fur, not no fur. There's just no good reason to think it wouldn't have had fur. Similarly, we have extremely close relatives of T-Rex and more distant but still living relatives of T-Rex. And one of the things they have in common is that all of them at certain points in their life could grow downy fuzz. So, what's most likely? That T-Rex could, at least at some point in his life, grow downy fuzz, or that it couldn't? Oh, I think it's more likely that it could, because all of its relatives are either known to have done so, or we have good reason to think that they could, like Dinosaurus, which was living in, like, Alaska in the late Cretaceous, where it snowed annually. So, like, yeah. The fact that we don't have direct evidence for downy fuzz in juvenile T-Rexes is not a good reason to conclude they didn't have it. Let's see. Roshina, I'm going to get it eventually. Illegal Taxon Killer for $4.99 says, does the naked mole rat have hair? Its group has hair. Yes, it does. It has hair. I believe it has whiskers. And, yeah. It in fact, as far as I remember, of course, the middle of a live stream, I'm not exactly checking. But as far as I remember, it does have hair. I believe it even has whiskers. So, yeah, because whiskers are really important for getting around in a subterranean environment. Rana Unwelcome Nuance K for $5 says, the thunderstorm outside means Thor is displeased with this liar. Oh, you had a thunderstorm too, huh? Yeah, we just, one here just passed, I think, during the stream. Yeah. So we're going to get a little bit more Charles Jackson in, and then we're going to start wrapping things up.
He drew it anyway.
I mean, it goes with phylogenetic bracketing, right? So phylogenetic bracketing is this idea where you say, okay, I don't know if this creature had trait X, right? But its close relative had trait X, and a more distant relative also had trait X. So it probably also had trait X, right? Think about it like this, right? Let's say you find a lizard fossil, and this lizard seems like it's a member of Iguania, right? Which is a group of lizards that includes numerous things. And it seems like it's really closely related to the green iguana. Okay, and you want to know, okay, did this lizard have hind legs? Not all lizards do. Okay, well, the iguana has hind legs. And then you go farther out, right? And you pick, like, I don't know, a chameleon. Well, chameleons have hind legs. Okay. And then you look at, like, its overall body shape, and you're like, well, what are some lizards that don't, like glass lizards, which are closely related to skinks? Okay, well, it doesn't have that kind of anatomy. It's certainly not a snake, which are another group of snake or lizards that usually don't have hind legs, although some do. I'm like, nope, doesn't look like it's a snake. Okay, well then, yeah, it probably had hind legs, and that's phylogenetic bracketing. Similarly, with Tyrannosaurus, we do the same thing. We say, like, okay, well, Our really relatively close relative in Nanosaurus and Tyrannosaurus, they had feathers. A much more distant relationship, Dilong, had feathers. Even farther, but still somewhat close relations with things like Uriomimus had feathers. Living representatives of the same group have feathers. So, with phylogenetic bracketing, you say, yeah, the most likely reconstruction for Tyrannosaurus rex is that at some point in its life cycle, it had feathers. That's phylogenetic bracketing. Is it proof positive? No. It's just giving you the most reasonable reconstruction of a trait. Are there animals that have features or lack features that we wouldn't expect as a result of phylogenetic bracketing? Absolutely. Does that change the fact that using phylogenetic bracketing can give you the most likely reconstruction and it's usually right when we can actually check it? Yeah, it is. It does both of those things. But all right, that's where we're going to start wrapping things up. Jackson, what do you got for us? What do you got coming up?
Thursday stream, same as usual. I would like to say that the leafcutter ant's tail is coming up. But I've been so very busy.
How dare
recently.
you, sir?
I know. I'm ashamed. But I would like to get back to working on it because leafcutter ants are really neat.
They are.
Talking about the evolution of insects broadly.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. All right, so let's take a look at what's coming up on this channel. So, tomorrow, we're going to be taking a look at Eric Hovind telling us that actually slavery is okay because biblical slavery isn't slavery. Don't you know? Yeah, it's going to be pretty rough. The plan is to have Chesh and Dr. Kip Davis here for that. So that'll be tomorrow at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Then on Tuesday, currently, the plan is Kent with Bent. Now, some medical things have come up with Bent. He is currently in the hospital. I do not have an estimated time for his release from the hospital. So, I don't actually know what's happening on Tuesday. I am hoping it'll be Kent with Bent. I can't guarantee that. He's not in any immediate, mortal peril. I expect him to be released and to be in reasonably good health, and, so he's not dying on us or anything here, but, yeah, he is currently, in need of some serious medical care, and he's getting it, so that's good. But that does mean that I am not confident that it'll be Kent with Bent. What my plan is I will try to come up with an alternative stream. I will schedule a Kent with Bent with a Kent with Bent thumbnail and everything. And if that doesn't happen, there will be an alternative stream. I just don't know what it will be. Also, I had promised everyone that I would appear in the tutu in my human suit on Tuesday. I still plan to do that, whether or not it is Kent with Bent. Yeah, that's that. I don't know exactly what's happening there. Although Bent did text me to make sure I was going to feed the dogs, as if I was going to let the dogs starve. But I don't blame him. You know what? Anyway, so on Thursday, July 4th, yes, we are doing a July 4th premiere. It will be Genetic Entropy, but worse, the fourth part of the Pam Acker saga. She is going to try to do her own spin on genetic entropy, and it's even dumber than John Sanford's spin on genetic entropy, which is saying something, because I read the book Genetic Entropy, and it is extremely bad. I'm nuts for 500 yen says, I'm about 10 minutes behind, so I'm sending money from the past because Dapper predicted the future. Thank you so much. That is much appreciated. I will update our running total. We'll try to put in 2 decimal points. Blender doesn't like that. So yeah, I will give Ben your best, Robert Adson, on behalf of everybody. So I don't think he currently. I mean, he could very well be asleep by now, so I don't know. I'll make sure he gets your well wishes. I really do appreciate it. I just lost my train of thought. Oh, right. So next Saturday, there should be another Dapper Reacts. I don't know if it will be a direct follow-up to tomorrow's, because the Eric Hovind video that I have is fairly short. So it's probably not worth 2 whole streams. So chances are it'll be an entirely new topic, and then it'll just be that one weird Dapper Reacts where we talked about the Bible and slavery. So, yeah. And I think that basically sums up what's coming up. So, Jackson, do you have any final thoughts for the viewers here?
Don't text your ex.
Yeah,
didn't say that earlier.
That's generally good advice. Yeah, don't text your ex. I know that there are exceptions. Some people do have cordial relationships with exes. I have a cordial relationship with at least one. So, I mean, but still, yeah, generally speaking, don't text your ex. Bad idea. All right, well, I hope to see all of you tomorrow at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. Otherwise, we're out of here. My Papioca Weasel, Whispers, Eleron Teller, Horseflesh, Ian Chen, Kelvin Brostick Van Manen, Landon Knoll, Mabdy Babdy, Sphincter of Doom, Lawless, John Ackerman, and Strawberry Vein. It's because of my channel members and patrons whom you're seeing on screen that this channel can stay afloat. Without you, it would all shut down. If you want to join the team, there's a link to join the channel below this video, and there's a link to join the Patreon in the description. On the Patreon, you can get a 10% discount for pledging annually, and either way, you get early access to virtually all of my scripted videos, often 3 to 5 months before they come out for the general public. Thanks for watching.